Mr. Agnew.
Thank you very much indeed for a really good presentation. Some good, positive, practical thought has gone into this, which is what is required. Got 4 quick points. You noted that the UK has proposed 2 possible models for a future trading arrangement, a streamlined one and a partnership one. And it appears that the UK don't know how to operate the partnership one. Actually, they're already doing it in the Isle of Man. Maybe I'll have to point that out to them. There's another interesting point that hasn't been discussed this morning. The UK will now collect the import duties from third countries, and yet the financial impact of that hasn't been discussed. You might just like to comment on that. At the moment, of course, we pass it on to the European Union. There's a very good point made about the clearance costs. Of course, I accept this, but things do move on. 5 years ago, when I wanted to drive my car across the River Thames, I had to stop and pay at a barrier. Now, an overhead camera takes the registration of my car, and I'm sent a bill. We could employ this sort of technology to keep these goods moving smoothly. And finally, there's a very logical case to be made for a transition period if you know exactly what's going to happen at the end of it, and one doesn't want to be awkward about these things. On the other hand, these can be used as a way of simply extending British membership into the future. And is one of the immortal phrases that my father said to me, Stuart, there is nothing more permanent than a temporary measure. Thank you.
Mr. Agnew made a number of points, but I think just the one to answer on the technical side, the others I took as comments. My understanding that the excellent study that was presented on the budget consequences of Brexit does, in fact, take into account that tariff revenue effect that you mentioned. So it would take into account that revenue coming from the UK from collecting tariffs on imports from third countries would no longer be passed on to the EU budget. So I think my understanding is that is taken into account in the figures that were presented earlier.